We are live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club on Friday, March 7th. It's Saturday morning down under. To all of you joining us there, where the cyclone's closing in, Julia.
Yes.
Cyclone Alfred.
Oh, Alfred. As in
Not
Prince
named
Alfred.
after Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club. Thank you all for joining us. Co-host Julie Vatican is in fine fettle this afternoon. In fact, as it is here, let's get on with it. Our show number 814 with the show notes. Happy Friday and happy, Julia, it's Father of the Deaf Day.
Oh, yes?
Yes. Let's see if anybody figures that out. Stay safe in Brisbane and Queensland. We're thinking of all of our Fosey family and friends down there as Cyclone Alfred comes ashore. Fosey Focus, Bravo Zulu to our Fosey William Bing Bong Sangmeister, who's become the third Eagle Scout son in that family.
Yeah, that was a great picture.
Nice picture. We're going to have that in the show. News briefs, we're talking about locking the clock. Of course, the Bacardi Cup, the JJ is underway. We've got that Vendée Globe straggler. We've got USSA and some Crutonic Sale GP news.
Mm-hmm.
John Emmett gives his last report from Australia. He's, in fact, I think at the Doha airport now en route back to the UK from Oz. And Alistair's AAAA also celebrating the time that he's had with John and Lily. And then finally, our feature story today, not finally, but our feature, could the America's Cup actually return to Auckland? We'll study that and get your opinion in a Fosey poll, as well as do a tribute to His Highness the Aga Khan, who's passed away. We told you a couple shows ago. The founder of the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, and indeed that entire region of Sardinia. And it could even be the next venue for the America's Cup, possibly. I wouldn't stake my life on it, but one never knows, Julia.
Yes.
I trust you're well.
I am.
I see in 2 minutes and 50 seconds, we got into that entire show. Much quicker than we used to.
Yes.
Without that 90-second countdown, because everybody that watches us now is so sophisticated.
Yes.
Now, let me talk about, I didn't get a chance to check your new mic positioning. We're back to our other mics here. Count to 5 for me, Julia.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
A little more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, we'll see. We get Julia sorted out here as her mic is. See that gap-osis between you and your mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too long. We'll swing that over and point it toward you a bit, and I'll come over and do that, work on that during this first video. Okay, that's our show today, is the AC38 venue hunt. It's on, fully on now. It is the Auckland talks, which have been reported extensively by Richard Gladwell, by others in the media. Is this talk serious? And we'll study that. We'll see what you think in a Fosey poll. Thanks to Andrew Dolly DeVola.
Oh, yes.
Wasn't that terrific,
it was
Julia?
Great fun and informative.
It was. He's another one of these. We haven't had him on the show before, but obviously super smart.
Yes.
Super cool. And he gave us the preview on Tuesday's show for the JJ, which started Friday. It's Saturday down there now, of course, but It started with a invitation race, which what we would call the practice race. That's over, and of course, Smeg won it, but we'll talk about that. A lot of the boats didn't finish, as is the superstition. You don't want to win the practice race because you might not win the regatta.
Right.
Speaking of the cyclone, which they run clockwise down there as they approach. I mean, cyclones are clockwise, whereas they're counterclockwise here in the northern hemisphere. But Cyclone Alfred, the latest update, now this is a couple hours old, courtesy of the Independent, more than 250,000 homes are without power. That was at last check.
Oh, my gosh.
And this life-threatening storm nears land. It may have gone, and since I prepared these slides a couple hours ago, it may have even gone ashore. We'll ask our Fosey in the chat what is the latest on all of that. That was a poem, and I'm a poet and didn't know it, Julia.
Yes.
There was the track of the storm as it went, made a big right turn.
Wow.
And headed right for landfall atop Brisbane.
That's very unusual to have that kind of turn.
And not only did it turn, but then it slowed. And it went slower, which means the rain gets dumping on the same area for a longer period of time. It is a vicious storm. Yes, Rod Hag. Thank you, Rod, confirming that they are anti-clockwise, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere, which means the left side of the storm is more potent than the right side, which is the way it works here in the northern hemisphere. But nonetheless, here is an ABC, Australian Broadcast News report from, tell me what, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, with the latest.
Alfred's slow and erratic path has major implications. It shifted the intensity and duration of the impacts, including an extended period of flooding rain, which should persist for at least another 48 hours. The late arrival is partly explained by an irregular path on Wednesday. The steady track west was interrupted by a 12-hour loop. The movement west recommenced today, and the eye is currently around 200 kilometres offshore. Although the wide field of gales and cloud means the coast is already being lashed by severe weather. The latest modelling shows Alfred crossing the coast around midnight tomorrow. However, the destructive core will start to impact the coast on Friday, remembering it's the southern side of the system which is the most dangerous. Coastal erosion will continue, the largest waves from Coffs Harbour to Cape Morton. But the most extreme weather for many regions will be rain. The greatest intensity now arriving late Friday and Saturday, when 6-hour totals will peak at 250 millimetres and 24-hour totals 450 millimetres. This represents life-threatening totals and is certain to cause severe flash and river flooding. Friday's rain should be the heaviest from the Gold Coast to about Port Macquarie in the moist easterly winds to Alfred South. Following landfall on Saturday, winds and surf should start to ease. However, rain will still be increasing in many areas this weekend, even well after Alfred is downgraded to a tropical low. 24-hour totals on both Saturday and Sunday will again peak near 400 millimetres, further exacerbating river levels over already flooded catchments.
Yeah, it's going to be rainy. No question about that. But the good news is, as John or Alistair actually said, and several others in the comments, it's already been downgraded to well, not Category 1, just to a storm.
Oh, good.
It's not even a Cat 1 anymore. So that's good news. But apparently it has gone ashore. And Fritz Mueller in Miami knows about hurricanes, knows about cyclones. And just a breeze on the Gulf of America, Mark Holland is saying. A tropical low, a tropical storm, as we'd call it up here. And welcome to all of you. John Emmett, who I believe is at the Doha airport in Qatar. One thing recently which became more than apparent, we all need good friends for hard times, and we know who our good friends by how they act in hard times. We know who our good friends are, by how they act in good times. Good luck to all those on the Gold Coast. John Schaefer. Captain Jack's going to be on the show here in a few weeks, by the way. We've teed him up. He'll be back. An interesting thing that he's working on. Clay Dembley echoing our concerns. Stay safe. And greetings from cloudy, snowy Colorado, says Joe Holtzman, as we wrap this segment up about Hurricane Alfred. And needless to say, we're thinking about all of you there, including, I don't see our Brisbane Fozy on, but maybe they don't even have electricity or internet. Who knows, Julia?
Oh, that could be.
Julia, what are we celebrating today? It's a combo. What are we celebrating? And also, how about this day in history?
Big black beards.
We're doing the both with one stone.
Okay.
7th of March, this day in history, 1876. So just a few years after the America's Cup Zero in 1851. Mm-hmm. Here's your first clue. Oh, Clark Chapin is so quick. Clark got it right away. He must have been looking on that website. Alexander Graham Bell. Do you know, Julia, that this guy, Alexander Graham Bell, did not, he was Scottish, emigrated, did not have a middle name, but he wanted a middle name. So when he was age 11 or 12, he said to his parents, and they went to court and got him a middle name. And he chose Graham.
Yeah.
Now, do you suppose he chose Graham after Graham Cracker? I don't know. So yes, that's Alexander Bell. Alexander Graham Bell. Will you have Dolly back on for follow-ups? Yes, we will. By popular demand, I'm sure we will have Dolly back on. So yeah, Alexander Graham Bell. That is not he. That is not him trying his device. That's actually an actor who portrayed Bell in a 1926 film, and of course, with his what apparently is a replica of his original device. the telephone. And of course, he invented a lot of other things too. But it was really not so much a telephone as it was he called it I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was an oral or in the AURL sense of the word, telegraph.
Okay.
Clark Chapin says there's a This Day in History column in our daily newspaper, the Detroit Free Press.
Aha.
So he knows from that, he says, or I assume. But yes, today on March 7th, 1876, this guy got it. This famously cool guy, got a patent from our U.S. Patent Office, issued him the patent number 1744465. It covered the method of an apparatus for transmitting vocal or other sounds telegraphically by causing electrical undulations, I love that word, similar in form to the vibrations of the air accompanying the said vocal or other sound.
Lovely.
And apparently it didn't work very well. In fact, I'm not even sure when he got the patent that it worked. And then there was a big fight because he used parts of other people's stuff. Other people were developing the same, everybody's furiously competing to try to get the first patent. And then he tried to get it patented in the UK, and that went awry, and it took a long, long time.
He didn't really earn very much money out of that.
Well, he did ultimately. He ultimately did, quite well, but not initially. Reminds me of inventors of the first plane that couldn't fly, the Wrong Brothers. What kind of a comment is that, Stingray? Bell Labs, and of course he founded AT&T, which still exists, and Julia, which I use as my mobile carrier here in the U.S.
Yes.
Yeah, AT&T. You use Verizon; it's more reliable here.
Yes.
But indeed, that grew into Bell Labs. It grew into long distance calling. Telephone telegraphy, and what we're doing today arguably grew out of all that as well. Hello, Magnus the Magnificent, and Don Lunabos. Cracker, yes, he's one of those. So that's what we're celebrating today. It's officially, in fact, I guess world over, it's Alexander Graham Bell Day with just one invention. He changed the world, making long distance communication possible and paving the way for modern communications. Somebody said that his second call was spam. Bell patented, yes, Fritz Mueller, you knew Bell patented the telephone. So that's what we're celebrating today. And as you know, Julie, we're also always celebrating our FOSI.
Indeed.
Especially those of you who are patrons that give us a few bucks or more per month, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Without your support, it wouldn't be possible to have this studio and pay the fee. We only use it for the show. Only for the show. We don't even have a clothing allowance, right?
No.
You've got 4 closets of clothes up there in the Commodore's suite.
Then
don't
they're all 40 years old.
Well, but I don't think you've ever worn the same dress twice, have you?
I don't have to.
Or the same scarf.
I've got lots of closets full.
The FOSI Focus is coming up, but thanks in the meantime to all of you who support us and who just coming on the show and who click the like button and so on, as we always ask you to do. FOSI Focus is here with us now. FF, the FOSI Foci, Julia.
Uh-huh.
Cool people, friends of Sailing Illustrated. We appreciate your support of the show, but we also appreciate the cool things you're doing for our beloved sport and for the families of who produce sailors, including that big kid in the middle is son number 3. That is Bing Bong, William Sangmeister. His brothers on either side of him are already Eagle Scouts. They're actually twins, fraternal twins, obviously. And then William, who's the youngest of the 3, has just been awarded his Eagle Scout. His proud papa, John Sangmeister, another FOSI, is also an Eagle Scout and, of course, a Scout Master. And scouting has been a big contribution to our way of life here in this country and several other countries I know. Also, the Sea Scouts to sailing.
Yeah.
And the Bill Koch, the William I. Koch, winner of the 92 America's Cup, he has donated the big Sea Scouting National Championship trophy. You were going to say?
I was going to say that Mrs. Sangmeister has by this time earned all 4 of them.
Well, she is the smartest of the whole group. She's a lawyer, maritime lawyer, and she is a sharp cookie as well. They're all pretty cool people. Bravo, Zulu, William. in the center, and how he got his grandpa's big. Sarah's dad's a big boy, who's also a good sailor. Another Bravo Zulu. Remember this photo we ran not too long ago? Remember the guy on the right, Sean Hogan, who's president of Yachting Victoria and also of Sailability Victoria, and he's had his cancer bout. He's had a struggle, but he's getting married.
Oh, yay.
He sent this out to me yesterday while I was in isolation in a biohazard. I think he just had another chemo. I asked Allison to marry me. Now that's romance. Allison said, yes, we will, of course, keep you all updated on wedding plans, etc. And parenthetically, he says, when I told my daughter, Sophie, she immediately said she would be doing all the wedding planning, Allison's makeup and so on. So I can just see us all in hot air balloons over the Amalfi Coast in Lake Bliss. Bravo Zulu, Fozy, Sean Hogan, and the rest of your mates there in that picture. Cool stuff.
Yes.
Bravo Zulu.
Nice.
Tonight at the New York Yacht Club. Do you recognize that, Julia?
Indeed.
The model room at the New York Yacht Club on West 44th Street in Manhattan. The CCA, the Cruising Club of America, is having their annual dinner. There'll be a bunch of Fozy there, including our good friends Chris Otterowski, Commodore Chris Otterowski, Seattle Yacht Club, Otto as he's known, and his wife Sean, and of course Claire Harrington, and a bunch of other Fozy will be there. They're going to have a big party. They wish we were there.
Oh, I wish we were there too.
We would love to be there with you. Best wishes for a great evening. Before we leave the Fozy Focus, this is really more of a program note. As I told you on Tuesday, next week we've got two Fozy coming on. On Tuesday, we've got Mark Reed, longtime journalist, photographer, University of Michigan fan. He lives in Grand Rapids on the west side of the state. He will be our guest talking about the Heart of America Challenge from 1987 and what Chicago Yacht Club is doing to celebrate the Heart of America. The late, great Buddy Malgus ran that program for the 87 Cup in Frio, and Mark will preview the crew reunion and club night that's taking place at Chicago Yacht Club on 21 March, and a little bit of a promo for them. And that whole series, as I mentioned the other day, is being run by another Fozy. Remember?
No.
Oh, come on. She's arguably given us more money.
Oh, yes, we talked about her.
She's given us a lot of dough. We'll
Yeah.
keep that secret till next Tuesday.
Yes. Oh, she's
Betsy Altman Barrett.
Barrett. Yes.
She is. We won't keep it secret. She's a cool gal and a great supporter of the program.
She is.
This show, and she is our age, my age. She took over the inshore committee at U.S. Sailing after I and some others ran the thing, and she did a bang up there. She tough, smart, Etchell sailor and big boat sailor and so on. And that's Betsy Altman.
Great.
Barrett. And then next Friday, we told you last show that our guest will be yachtsman and author, and you're our good friend. Actually, he's a Beach Street Yacht Club member, Julia.
He is. Kimball Livingston.
Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston. And do you recognize that flag behind him? He's a staff Commodore, meaning past Commodore here of
St. Francis.
St. Francis Yacht Club. But this was taken when he was representing St. Francis at the commissioning day of Harbor Court.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
In New York Yacht Club's esteemed, superb clubhouse in Newport, Rhode Island. Kimball will be with us a week from today, talking about the rise of private youth sailing teams on Friday the 14th. While we're talking about Rolex, Harbor Court, St. Francis Yacht Club, I can't resist, Julia.
Yes.
I can't resist but to draw everyone's attention to Sunday here in the States. The times, they are a-changin'. Who sang that song?
I can't remember.
The times, they are a-changing. The poet laureate of the beat and actually the early rock society, rock era, Bob
Dylan.
Well done. Times, they are a-change. So there is the Golden Gate Bridge. That's the Rolex clock at the St. Francis Yacht Club, because we go on daylight time on Sunday, almost a month earlier than you do in Europe. We are not changing the time of this show. We stay at 1300. So you all have to adjust to us. We'll be an hour earlier for all of you around the world because we go on now at 1300. Pacific Daylight Time. I wish we would lock the clocks.
How would you feel if we only had to go through daylight saving time one more time? Well, that's a possibility. I'm Fox 4 senior reporter Caitlin Knapp on Fort Myers Beach, asking people about daylight saving time and a new bill that would lock in the clock. This weekend, we are yet again moving our clocks up an hour, which means we'll get more sunlight later, but lose an hour of sleep. Would you put your clock forward or backwards?
Forward or backwards? I'd probably put it, I'd have to think about that. Whichever one gave me the most daylight.
I like it when you don't switch it.
Sometimes it messes up. Sometimes you don't even notice.
This could be the last time Florida has to do it. Senator Rick Scott is sponsoring the Sunshine Protection Act.
I just think I hate moving the clock back and forth. If we could stay on daylight savings time, we would have daylight when we can use it.
The bill would lock in the clock. When he was governor in 2018, Scott signed a law to do that in Florida, but Congress needs to make it a law first. Senator Scott tells me it would reduce health risks, energy costs, and make neighborhoods safer. The CDC says with daylight saving, more light at night could make it harder for you to fall asleep. Also, darker mornings, the agency says, could increase traffic crashes.
I'm actually optimistic that we'll get it done this year.
This bill has been presented before, but never passed. President Trump was asked about it on Thursday.
But a lot of people like it one way, a lot of people like it the other way.
I would be about it, but I don't know the purpose of changing the clocks.
Sometimes it works out in our favor. Sometimes, it kind of, you're set back an hour, pisses you off, obviously.
So your vote is to lock in the clock.
Lock in the clock.
Yeah.
Even go a half an hour and say, okay.
Yeah, go in the middle.
Now, here's the status with the bill. It's in the committee right now, but it's not on the schedule quite yet. Reporting in Fort Myers Beach, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
Split the difference, Julia. There's a novel idea. They do that in, I think, Australia. Russia have these half-hour time zones.
I know.
As you all know, I wish they would lock the clock. I don't care if they lock it on daylight time or standard time, but this switching back and forth, to me at least, Julia, I don't know how you feel. I do know how you feel.
I know.
It's anachronistic. It's
Crutonic.
It's World War I save energy, which of course didn't really even save energy. But there is the inertia, there's the momentum to keep going. And I wish we would simply say to the states,
Yes.
do what you want. Decide what you're going to do. And by the way, 3 of our states already do their own thing. Hawaii never goes on daylight time. They stay standard year round. Arizona stays on standard time year round, I believe. And Indiana, my Indiana. There's a good song from about 1920 about World War I or shortly thereafter. Indiana, half of it changes.
Yeah, that's worse.
And half of it doesn't because Indiana wanted to be on summertime, but they want to stay on Chicago time, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So that because Chicago's just north. Lock the clocks and turn on your lights. Gee, suck it up. Yeah, more daylight for sailing after work. Clay Embley is saying, I don't care. If Kentucky, if you want to go on daylight time and stay on it, do what you want. In fact, if a state wants to even change, that's okay too. We can figure that out. Apple will fix our iPhones so that they automatically change, and depending upon where you are, everything will be fine.
Yes.
I just looked at my phone. Look at this. I got another from Country Code 44, another scam. Speaking of scam, your USPS, U.S. Postal Service package has arrived at the warehouse and could not be delivered due to an invalid zip code. Now, this is Country Code 44. There's some crouton in your country, in the UK, your country for a lot of you, who's been sending me these spam. Maybe it's one of you.
Yeah, I know.
Let's lock the clock, Julia, shall we? How do you like that T-shirt?
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a good one. Now, before we leave all this, I've got one other thing to show you. Speaking of USPS, it arrived in the mail yesterday.
Yes.
We have 2 high-tech shirts. And we have been made not only honorary members. See, that's Oak Cliff.
Oh, yeah.
There's Oak Cliff's the logo.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put it here on camera too. But we have been made members of the Bimbo local New York, meaning the local chapter. That's a union phrase. And we are not just we're real members now of the Bimbos. And you remember what the Bimbo stands for?
Oh, I've forgotten already, but it's a good one.
the Brotherhood of International Mark Boat Operators. And now, because they're trying to be politically correct, it's no longer Brotherhood. It's now the something else. The B stands for something else.
Oh, good.
And very kindly, Larry Kennedy, who's on the chat, sent us these shirts and has made us bimbos.
I've been a bimbo for a long time.
You've been a bimbo for life. I used to play in, there was a bar, as some of you will know, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I grew up. And it was called Bimbo's, and it had nothing to do with Mark Boat Operators, but it was a great pizzeria and peanuts and so on. And I used to play in there on Sunday nights. I started playing the tuba and ended up playing the banjo, or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember. I'm going to put this shirt on right after I actually wore mine yesterday. It was cold.
Oh, good.
I had a hoodie on. I'm preparing the show. And I put it on, and I'm so happy to be an Oak Cliff bimbo.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's lovely.
A union member, once again.
Wow. Nice.
The tale reminds me of a story. Yeah, Mark Setbot is trying to make us bimbos obsolete, Rick Banner was saying. We were at the Detroit Boat Show, and my dad had the boat business. We used to display at the Detroit Boat Show every year, and it's in January. It's snowy and awful, and you go in there, and it takes you half a day just to clean the boats up after you've trailed them into Detroit to Cobo Hall to the boat show.
Right.
And then you get in there, and the unions are so strong in Michigan because of the auto industry. The unions, there's the Teamsters Union, will not let you touch your display and trailers. You got to call up a Teamster to come move your boat trailers around. And of course, my dad wouldn't stand for that. He's going to do his own thing. Long story short, we, of course, rearranged our display to suit ourselves. And the Teamster boss came along and said, "Excuse me, I see the tape marks on you've adjusted your display. You're not union. You can't do that." And my dad pulled out. I must have been 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of my dad and so impressed. He pulled out his wallet. He pulled out a card out of which said North American Yacht Racing Union. He was a member of NARU. Maybe it was USYRU by then.
Yeah,
he said, "See that? We have a union even in sailing." And the shop steward, the boss of the union, whoever he was, said, "Okay, great. You're a union member. Okay, brother. No problem."
That's a great story.
And they let him move the stuff around thereafter. I was so proud of my dad.
Yes. Oh, that's a lovely story. I've not heard that.
Lock the clock. And then go play at Bimbo's in Ann Arbor. That place is long gone. Matt Chudich was his name, who ran it, and those of you who from that area. Hey, Julia, people liked our new today's news in brief.
Oh, okay, good.
I think that is with us.
Good.
So let's go to Miami and start with the over 600 sailors from 24 nations that have taken over Biscayne Bay. Now, not just the Star class. This is the Bacardi Cup. Still goes on. It's the 98th, but the Star class, the Bacardi Cup itself, which is awarded the winner of the Star class, has been going on for 98 years, and this regatta has expanded for, the last 4 or 5 years into a much bigger event, including J70s and many other classes. Indeed, there are over 600 sailors and more than 200 boats representing 24 countries. They took to the water a couple days ago across 4 race courses off Miami. The Melgus 24, J70, Snipe, Viper 40, and VX1 classes joined the Star fleet for the Bacardi Cup Invitational Regatta in a spectacular showcase of international sailing talent.
Absolutely.
In fabulous weather and conditions.
Yes.
In the Star, since that's the granddaddy and we still love the Star class for all the obvious reasons, Kayard won yesterday's race. And
did he good?
Yeah, he's up in the hunt now and chasing the leader, Mateusz Kuznarovich. So the leaderboard has tightened as Kayard clean claimed victory in race 4, narrowing the gap to just 2 points behind Mateusz and Bruno Prada. As the battle for supremacy intensifies, Kayard Clean have positioned themselves as the favorites. They spelled favorites.
That's English.
It's all British spelling in an American press release. To overhaul Kuznarovich and Prada, the defending champions have an insatiable desire to win, but it is never an easy ride to win the Bacardi Cup, indeed. And there's the standings. And Jack Jennings and Pedro Truchet yesterday won that race, or day before yesterday. And they're in the hunt, too, on 23 points, chasing Paul and Friedhoff clean on 12 points. And, of course, Mateus and Bruno on top with 10. They now have a discard, I believe. And let's see.
When are the next races?
Well, they're racing as we speak, maybe over by now. The Stars just race one race a day in the traditional way. I think that's what they do. And then I think they race tomorrow, Saturday, and maybe tomorrow night's the prize giving. Can't remember. The Stars been racing all week. The other classes have just joined in.
Yeah.
Dawn Riley. Hello, Dawn, one of the coolest sailors in this modern era of our beloved sport in this country. It just reminded me because the Bacardi Cup, I think is the first one on the list. What does that mean, Dawn? I think is the first one on the list. Well, there's Dawn up above that. Hey, Tom, I'm driving up to Newport trying to watch and not crash. Please don't crash, Dawn. We need you. She, of course, is running Oak Cliff, which is where these shirts came from.
Right.
Julia. She runs. She's the executive director.
Right.
At Oak Cliff. There's their logo.
Yes.
And we'll be speaking at the Iris fundraiser tonight. And but you might want to take a quick look at the racing. Okay, she's got that calendar up. Remember, Dawn told us
yes.
that she was posting a calendar of all the events at least in this country. And
remember,
she said, now I understand what she says. The Bacardi Cup must be the first event on her new calendar. So we'll look at that, Dawn. Thanks for reminding us.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so that's the Bacardi Cup. Let's get some more news briefs here. And it's really not by way of breaking news, which is why several of you submitted draft or proposed graphics for breaking. It's not breaking news. It's news briefs. It may have happened today, may have happened yesterday, but I hate it when CNN and Fox News and
breaking news,
everything's breaking news.
Yes.
And, you start to get jittery with it. Breaking news. John Emmett is saying, Julie Aaron's Tom Eaton will keep mentioning the clock change for as long as there is a clock change. You bet I will, John. Just like I mentioned the non-sailing CEO of both World Sailing and U.S. Sailing, and we at least helped get rid of both of them. I don't know to what extent we contributed to that. Maybe we delayed it. But the J.J. Giltonen, the championship race is about to start in about, 4 hours? It starts at 2:30 local time in Sydney today, Saturday down there. So at 7:20 p.m., they go live at 2 Sydney time, and they start racing at 2:30. They go live with Peter Shipway and with Dolly DeVola and so on with the commentators. And the live coverage last night I watched a good bit of it, and it was superb.
Oh, I forgot.
On YouTube, Julia.
Yeah.
So,
we can watch it. I can watch it tonight.
You watch it tonight and for the next week. It goes all week. Then they've got a day off, and they've got some other stuff going on. But the JJ is underway, sponsored by Winnings, by the Winnings family and company. And race 1 will be today, Saturday, tonight, Friday night here in the States. It runs through the 16th. So that is next Sunday, right?
Right.
The 2025 Winnings JJ Giltonen Intergalactic World Trophy Championship for the Sydney Harbor IDeens, the 18s, and Bravo Zulu to all involved. Now, as far as this practice race, we would call it, but Dolly informed us, educated us that down under they call it the invitation race, and they have the same, they call it a different thing, but they share the same superstitions that it's bad luck to win the practice race. So as teams got up near the finish line, they bailed out, except for Smeg, who said, no, we're going to win this. I always like to win the practice race. It never hurt. I never did better or worse at a regatta if I won the practice race. Normally, I think I did better, but who knows?
Yeah.
Bing Bong, William Sangmeister says, it's astounding to me how much better the 18-foot broadcast team is at showing Sydney compared to Sail GP. Superb point, Bing Bong, a.k.a. William Sangmeister. Bravo Zulu for that. Not only your Eagle Scoutish ness.
Yes.
How's that? I made that up. And Jody is saying it's currently double fiving. What does that mean? P-I double fiving in Sydney. That must be some Cockney rhyming slang that I don't understand. Help us out, Jody, with that. I think it means it's blowing, dogs off chains, oysters off rocks. But they are live this afternoon. But before that, they had this practice race and good turnout. They've got 28 boats in this event. 28.
Well, that's good.
From 4 countries. And yesterday's traditional warm-up race I like that warm-up race. That's better than invitational or practice. Yeah, means big win. PI double fiving in Sydney. Yesterday's practice race, warm-up race for the big one is regarded by many as more like a practice race and an opportunity for teams to flex their muscles, while some even refuse to finish the race because they believe that if you win the invitation, you won't win the regatta. Right. Of course, it's also, remember too, it's also rehearsal, as Dolly pointed out, and as all of you on here who are active, keen racing sailors, and it's also practice for the race committee and the broadcast team to get their ducks in a proverbial row.
Yes.
But before I miss Bing Bong's point, I want to go back, Julie, to say that, again, talking with Dolly on Tuesday's show, the fact that Peter Shipway and Dolly are out on the water in a boat doing the commentary live.
A lot of difference.
And I don't know if they're streaming from the boat, which is what we do for Governor's Cup. We're actually out on the water. Chris Bretschker, our executive producer, has got the hookup. So on that boat, we have the cameras. He switches the show. We have audio. We have the drones all going off the broadcast boat, or the media boat, as we call it. And it goes up to the cell phone system, and then it goes to the internet, to Facebook, YouTube, and so on. Mm-hmm. And that allows us to do it on the water. Well, they are on the water. I don't know if they're streaming from on the water or if they're sending their audio. Obviously, they're sending pictures somewhere back to shore to switch it and then connect it to the internet. But it is so much better when the commentators are on the water, watching what's going on, being able to see,
and sailors.
Well, and they're sailors, but especially that's a fair point too. Yeah. So that's the way to do that on the water. The way PJ Montgomery commentary, PJ did the America's Cup along with Gary Jobson and the others. Yeah. When they were in Auckland in the early 2000s.
I love listening to PJ Montgomery.
and they're on the water. Yes. Watching what's going on. You can read the surface of the water. You can see what's going on. You don't have to call out to somebody, hey, what does it look like over there on the left side of the course? I know. And then you're never sure if they can see what you're looking at, because the other thing is being up high on a big boat rather than being on a rib down on the water is better for the broadcast team too. Bing Bong agrees. He says, AK again, William Sangmeister, Bill. Hey, Bill. Shipway and PJ Montgomery is the dream team, AC commentary team.
Who's Shipway?
Peter Shipway. He does the Sydney Hobart commentary. He's been doing it for 35 years?
I didn't know that
40
was his
years?
name.
Peter. Shippo or Shippers, they have various nicknames for him. Okay, I digressed. While a number of teams upheld this belief today for the practice race and refused to go through the finish line or withdrew from the race before the final 2 legs, the racing was very good in the 12 to 15 knots southeast breeze, which fluctuated in strength and direction at times. Chris actually saying, yeah, I love shippers.
Yeah.
And I guess, is it raining in Sydney today, or is it just raining up? Jody, are you in Sydney, or are you up in Wangi, north of Sydney? And further north you get, no doubt, the more rain and wind there is because of the cyclone. Mm-hmm. So here's the finish. I just it's a screen grab from the live YouTube, and I didn't grab the whole video because it was so darn long, and it takes a bit of downloading time and so on. But that is Smeg. After more than an hour of sailing over the long course, the Smeg team of Nathan McNamara, Jed Cruikshank, and Jack Taylor took the honors by 29 seconds from Queensland's Bigfoot Bags and Covers, Dave Hayter, Ben Roxburgh, and Elliot Mahar. And if you think it's the first time I've read those names, you're right. You are right. But one of the big favorites, along with our Fozy and friend Harry on Rag and Famish Hotel, Harry Price, is this team, and that is Yandu, which is the winning. It's been driven and passed by one of the winnings. But as we move forward toward today's, meaning Saturday Down Under, first race of the winnings, sponsored 2025 JJ, The defending champion Yandu team faces a strong lineup of local, interstate, and international challengers in what promises to be a down-to-the-wire regatta. So this team is going to be good. They're always good, but they got a brand new helm in Tom Needham, who is contesting his first JJ and is joined by last year's winning crew members Fang Warren on the sheet and Louis Brake on the bow. So they'll be good. Now, what happened yesterday to Rag and Famish, to our Fozy Harry Price's boat, the pre-series favorite Rag and Famish Hotel, who won just about everything so far, raced without the regular skipper, without Harry, and retired early after a capsize. There it is. You can see in the background. The Rag has swept all before them so far throughout the season, but this one is going to test the Australian champion to the limit.
Oh, absolutely. But we don't know why they capsized.
Well, now, Julia, you would think poorly of me if I didn't find out why they capsized. Or
why did they capsize?
More importantly, watch the lower thirds. I'm going to do it with my foot. So I have my hands in the air.
Okay.
Watch the lower third.
Uh-huh.
That's Frank Queasley writing. Now, I didn't call Frank up. He's writing on sail-world.com, but I had to find out for you.
Thank you.
And the other inquiring minds.
Yeah.
So why didn't Harry race in the invitation practice race?
Aha.
You have to find these things out.
Yeah.
And it's actually sounds serious. So I went right to the horse's mouth. I went to his parents, David and Christiane Price, Fozy's both.
Yes.
Who texted back this morning, David did, saying in last weekend's race, he fell on his bad shoulder on the first downwind and dislocated it again. He finished but couldn't use it and has been seeing the surgeon all week. So he's racing from today, day one, and hopefully it's going to be okay, but just not necessary to do the invitation race, so another day of recovery.
That's good.
So he yesterday was on the injured reserve list, as we would say in professional sports up here, but he's back in action today.
I hope he's careful of his shoulder, though.
We hope he's okay, indeed. As I said, 28 teams from, 4 countries? Here's the first 14, and the 4 countries being New Zealand, Australia, Germany, and the UK. And as Dolly said, they haven't seen a lot of the Kiwis, who apparently are quite good, and they may be a surprise to everybody when they get over there and get acclimated to Sydney Harbor, and this system blows through and they get back to regular conditions. So that's our brief report on the JJ, which is underway today at 7:20 p.m. our time here on the West Coast, 7:20, I guess. The television on YouTube goes live 10 minutes before the start at 2:30, which is 2:30 is 19:30 our time. And I think the actual telecast goes live 30 minutes before that. I think that's what Dolly told us on Tuesday.
Good.
I thought Christian was on. Oh, that's terrible, Stingray. We'll give him the double finger wag for that. That's terrible, Stingray.
Yes, indeed. Shame on you.
That's worse than a political comment. I get criticized for making political comments here, but only when they're relevant to sailing. Right? Right, Clark? Today, racing at 14:30 in Sydney on Saturday. That is 19:30 tonight here. Not Eastern Standard Time. That's 19:30 Pacific Standard Time. The graphics department messed up, which is for you in Europe, 03:30 UTC or Saturday morning. Now checking in on what is the penultimate day, maybe the last day. We'll see if this guy finishes. The straggler still has not finished. No, he didn't. It's day 117. He's still trying hard. This is the Belgian guy.
I thought I saw that on news.
No, I don't believe he has. Now, maybe he has since I prepared these slides. I just did these slides in the last couple hours. The skipper of this Deletrin group is currently making progress in the Bay of Biscay. Every hour and every mile brings him closer to the Vendée finish, but he continues to work hard to look after his boat. He is expected in Les Sables d'Olonne this Saturday, which is tomorrow. Remember, it's Friday night over there, in the afternoon or evening, between 12 noon and 11 p.m. local time. Les Sables d'Olonne public will certainly be out to the finish line, the line to the channel. They'll be out to line the channel. That's what that makes sense. As will the online audience, who will be able to follow him during a live video. So they'll give him the treatment as well as they gave that guy the other day. We showed you that grand reception that he got, the 32nd place finisher. As specified by the race instructions, the Vendée Globe finish line was closed this morning at 0700 UTC. Now the last skipper still at sea, Dennis van Weinberg, the Letcherin Group, who has been at sea for 116 days, is now considered out of the race, the poor guy. Valiant, courageous, and resilient. He intends to go all the way, whatever the cost. And Clark is telling us in the chat that he still has 123 miles to go. And he was in light air. He was in lightish air, only doing 4 knots last I looked. How fast is he going now, Clark? But it's not the longest time. There have been teams that took a lot longer. But that's the latest on the Vendée. And on Tuesday, hopefully he will have finished tomorrow, Saturday. And we'll have news about that finish and the grand reception he's undoubtedly going to get as the 33rd place finisher out of 40 that started. That's amazing. Terrific race.
And he's done a great job too.
He has been. Alistair Murray says there should not be a time limit. Let him finish. Clark says he's now doing 10 knots. So if he's still got 120 nautical miles to go and he's doing 10 knots, it's a good, 12 hours. And he's got to slow down as he's approaching into the, you got fishermen and nets and traps. I don't know what all's outside of Les Sables d'Olonne. But, he's got to take it easy. So it's at least 12 hours. And what time is it UTC now? It's 21:47 UTC Friday night. So add 12 hours to that. That means kind of 9:45 tomorrow morning if he can maintain 10 knots. But we'll see. Amazing record of the number of finishers, Chris actually is saying. Gordon Smith, in a couple of weeks, he will be the first to start the next edition. Ted Ryman, good on him. I hope he gets there safely. We all do.
Yes.
And in good time. I'm sorry he's not going to make the time limit, but I'm sure he'll be celebrated regardless. Now, here's one. I don't know what to think of this. I've talked to a couple of you about it, but Julia.
Yes.
5 Olympic sports in this country, niche sports, it was announced yesterday, have banded together to combine and launch a joint marketing collective, including U.S. Sailing, as you can see. 5 U.S. sports national governing bodies, fencing, squash, cycling, sailing, and rowing, will pool their commercial and media rights under a new collective. Revenue from unified agreements will be split, and they had a big fight apparently about how to split between the 5 organizations. Would they do it proportionate to the number of athletes, proportionate to the membership, proportionate? They've decided to do it proportionate to the membership of each organization. And the collective has picked a company called Six Flags Entertainment as the deal-making point person, according to USA Fencing CEO, who are the senior partner in this deal, apparently.
Well, it might be a good idea since none of them have been great success stories.
Well, I don't know about the others, but U.S. Sailing has not been a great success story. I know that I look at it not with a U.S. Sailing hat on. I look at it as a marketing executive. And if I want to do a deal with any one of those, I can go do a deal and look at the target, the demo, as they say, the demographics. Or if I wanted to do a deal with all 5 of them, I could probably do that, and maybe a little more expensive than doing this collective deal. But these deals never work. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, as Shakespeare said, but they never work. I hope this one does. Don't get me wrong. I hope it works. I hope it brings a lot of money to U.S. Sailing and to our program. But, the efforts of Dawn Riley and Paul Caird and the others that are doing their own thing and raising money, the New York Yacht Clubs, the New York Sailing Foundation, the St. Francis are big fundraisers next week, right? St. Francis Sailing Foundation, the work of private people like the Schoonmaker Foundation, the late great Ding Schoonmaker, and his widow, Tracy, dear friend, is running that still and still raising a lot of money. They raise money at yacht clubs all around the country, from Wayzata in Minnesota to tell me where, Texas Corinthian to Lauderdale, and we'll see. We'll see. I hope it works. I hope it works great. How long till U.S. Sailing sues over not getting enough money? Bing bong. He's what, 17?
Yeah.
He's a pretty pithy commentor.
I know
In the chat.
He always has been.
Why aren't you in school, Bing bong? It's only what, not even 2:00 yet. Must be out early. Based on membership gives a boost to sports where membership is required in order to compete. Good point, Clark Chapin. Clark is a longtime supporter of and contributor to, I mean, not just financially, but a major workhorse for U.S. Sailing.
Yes, he has.
Rick Banner is saying it is all about co-purchasing TV packages, then sharing distribution and cost savings of TV production. I don't believe that for a minute, Rick. I hope you're right, but I'll believe it. Let me say this. I'll believe it when I see it, because none of these sports, I mean, I watched the Olympic trials last night for about 5 minutes, and I like curling. You know, I'm a hockey player. We have an affinity for curling and things Canadian and so on.
Yeah.
And the curling Olympic trials, somehow getting excited about the curling Olympic, which has a fairly,
and it's popular.
Good following, right?
Yeah.
And it's become a pretty good Olympic television sport, but you can't be bothered. And you think anybody's going to watch these Olympic trials? We can't even get to watch the Olympics. We can't even get people to watch the Olympics when Gary Jobson is there doing his usual thing and so on. Okay, now this one, I was going to do a corrector Crutonic, but we'll do that maybe next week, because we'll be previewing Sail GP next week, because we got 2 events and 2 weekends in a row. Never before has that been scheduled that way. We've got LA next weekend, not this coming, but a weekend, the weekend coming, and then we are up here, and they are up here in San Francisco the following weekend. They got to get all that stuff moved and set up, and that'll be a deal. That'll be a deal. But yesterday, to the utter astonishment of a bunch of it, last night, in fact, Sail GP announced that this guy, whom I'm sure you all know, Julia, do you know who that is?
No.
I even asked the Beach Street Yacht Club bartender if he knew, and he's a young guy, and hip and music, all that sort of stuff. Our friend Alfredo Partible, and he says, "Oh, I know him, but he's kind of he's from the 2000s. He's
old.
Oh well, he's just not." Chris Exley knows who it is. DJ Khaled. Now, he's from Miami. He used to be a big deal. He has a deal with Nike, so he's made some money. We the best, Bing Bong says, so he knows his music. Tell us, Bing Bong, what you think of this guy. Is he current and hip and on top of it? He is becoming the chief hype officer. He's been named. He's agreed to serve as Sail GP's chief hype officer.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at this and I thought, Russell's losing it. He cannot think this is going to work. He's going to further alienate his yacht club base of the establishment. And then I thought, well, maybe I am old and farty. I'm the first to admit it. I'm old and fusty and farty, and I don't relate to this guy's music. I'm still thinking of Dave Brubeck in the 1950s and 60s jazz era. But I like modern music. I listen to a lot of modern music. I play music and so on. Puzzling move, Chris Exley said. Alex Hayworth, auto vomit. Well, I didn't want to put it into corrector Crutonic yet. I thought we'd do that next week when we know more about the deal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out more about the deal and see what it does for the feel of this whole thing. Bing Bong says, I'm okay with this decision because it is Sail GP stating clearly this is boat racing, not yachting. Or not, okay, fair enough, William. Gordon Smith, did something irritate Tom while I was distracted? I thought we had discussed that he should have breakfast every day and no one was going to upset him on air. Was it you, Stingray? Ed Worley says, Crutonic, unfortunately, another reason to turn the volume down while watching Sail GP. Well, God forbid he's a commentator. There's our friend Richard Gladwell. He's saying, clever comment, The DJ Khaled story. Khaled, how do you say it? Khaled? He's Palestinian. He's a refugee. His family moved from Palestine to Miami. And Richard's asking, was that story meant for April 1st? April Fool's Day. Clayton Embley asking, can't the sailing stand on its own? It's like a Super Bowl halftime show, Julia.
Yeah.
Okay, now that Clayton Embley's on here, we got to give you a pour.
Oh, yeah?
It's Friday, Julia.
All right.
We'll give you a pour of Clayton's bourbon cream. It's the best. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I could even have a little bit just to flavor my coffee.
Why not?
Huh?
Yeah.
Can I have a little bit in my coffee?
Sure.
That was a very little.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is it? Stir it with your finger and then lick your finger.
No, I'm taking it off the top.
Oh, my goodness. What other comments here? In the immortal words of Yogi Berra, we'll be smarter when we know more. Yeah, that's why I didn't really want to do a corrector crutonic. Michael Timon. Hello, Michael. DJ Khaled is annoying. I'm not a fan. I avoid his voice and personality altogether. He's a big buddy of Diddy, of Sean Combs, who's in the Clink.
Yeah.
And who knows? It seems the traditional formats are not working. Maybe this will have some sort of impact, Christopher Beckwith is asking. Call ID. Christopher Beck, what's that mean, Cal ID? Is that one of his songs? Yes, I got finger wags for a perfectly innocent comment, Stingray. No, that I'm not fussed about that. It was a worth of... Khaled, how do you say his name? Somebody give me a phonetic spelling in the chat, please. This guy in the commentary booth would be 500% more entertaining than the two croutons in the booth right now. So everyone have a drink. Julia's having a drink.
Right, join me.
Rick Bannerow asking if Janet Jackson will be hired to have a wardrobe malfunction. That would be more entertaining and it'll drive viewership too.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he comes to Long Beach Yacht Club for the SailGP promo event.
Mm-hmm. Khaled, Ted Ryman says.
Khaled is the accento on the first or second syllable. Khaled. Oh, Khalid. Christopher was giving. Okay, Christopher Beckwith was trying to help me, and I didn't realize it. Not Khalid. Khalid, apparently. Who knows? Blake Middleton, you're a musical guy. What? Carl ID'd. I don't know what Mr. Dr. Andrew has shown up. So this guy's the new chief hype officer, and I'm only going to run a few paragraphs from Magnus the Magnificent this morning because he did unload on this. The chances are you've never heard of this. Is Magnus's screed from this morning. SailGP's latest good idea to drive eyeballs and reach new audiences to its upcoming events in the States. The sad thing is, I have heard of this guy, Magnus is saying, through dint of having a teenager in the house, and let's just say he's not exactly cool, or whatever the kids say these days. That is this DJ Khaled. In fact, the super producer of urban rap music is seen somewhat as a joke, according apparently to, well, he's done some research now on it. That is Magnus. A social media influencer with a following on Instagram of about 39 million worldwide, who clowns around courtesy of an eye-watering multi-million-dollar contract with Nike, promoting a West Coast lifestyle. Is he West Coast or is he Miami? Of Maybach's private, you know what a Maybach is? Mm-hmm. That very high-end car of Mercedes. Private jets, unbelievably expensive watches, excess in all areas, and hanging out with rap stars that have attracted the most shocking of headlines, albeit disproved, after Sean Combs, yes, P. Diddy, yes, him, indictment, after the indictment. And this was his concluding paragraph. Magnus said, it's just an opinion, but I think SailGP are way off here. Okay, I applaud them for trying to reach new audiences and grow the reach, but seriously, do they think this has had the desired effect or will have the desired effect? Could they not find any number of other sports stars like Beckham, Jordan, or Brady to do the job and keep the focus on sporting excellence whilst tapping into those icons' followers? To my eye, this is an alienating strategy to a vital group of next-gen watchers and supporters of the league. I pray that they dial this down over the upcoming weekends. It is, as I was told, quote-unquote, embarrassing. Mm-hmm. Now, Julia Stingray's asking, maybe private jets. Maybe you could charter for next to nothing his private jet, and then we get
rid of him.
Well, to get rid of him, we get your jet now, so we can start flying our Sailing Illustrated Fosey around.
Oh well, we could do that.
So Claire can start flying us around. Okay, there's Clark Chapin is agreeing with that. How much is the guy going to get paid to hype an outdoor sport to urban teenagers? I just listened to his music. Clayton Embley is saying, I would rather hear a toddler bang on pots with a wooden spoon, just saying. Blake Middleton, who knows a lot about this stuff, embarrassing in my vote, is my vote. Find, Fritz Mueller, I couldn't agree more. Find a celebrity who actually knows sailing, please. Apparently this guy is a mad keen golfer. So good for him. At least he is sporty, at least. We were racing this past weekend in DJK. I'm going to call him, there we go, DJK. Thank you, Christopher. Posted watching Sail GP. Ride She Big, the big announcement. And we all got a good laugh, thinking he was into sailing. Magnus, who we've been quoting here, he says, yep, it's embarrassing. Could have had a Moana a lot cheaper. Rick Banner. Julia, we will gladly buy the bourbon concession.
Oh, what a good idea.
Great. Ted Ryman says the fee to book DJK is in the starting range of $500,000 to $750,000 of $1 million US.
Oh.
Bing Bong says he doesn't listen to DJK's music. It's really bad, but he's really funny. Well, thank you for all those comments. I'm glad I waited before I didn't run this as correct or crutonic. It was my gut reaction, but I like to hear what you as the marketplace and the Fosey, because you are always right. The Fosey are always right as a collective, Julia. Magnus the Magnificent. Wheatley from this blog, his Rule 69 blog. Yes.
Andrew says, is golf a sport or a pastime?
Well, it's a sport. It's kind of cool to watch. I'm not a golfer at all. I mean, I go to mini putt and for fun. And Meg liked to do that when she was growing up. We'd find a putt course someplace and go. And that's kind of fun to try to not hit the windmill.
Yeah.
What do you call those on a windmill? Blades, arms when they're going around and try to get the ball. That's all good fun. And I've never played a round of golf in my life. I haven't even hit one drive. I've never been to a driver range, but I like watching it on TV. I mean, these guys and gals, both, are so good. They're so astonishingly good.
Yeah, they are.
And they're in a sand trap, and you think, oh my God, he's going to take him the rest of the day to get out of there. And one hit, and it goes up, and the wind takes it, and he said made a count for that, and then it rolls on the green, and he's made a count for the tilt of the green, and the ball then goes past the thing and then rolls backwards toward the hole. These people have astonishing skills.
Yes.
You don't agree?
I do.
I can tell you're really impressed.
But I've always thought of golf as a test of makes a bad walk.
Well, you get a cart. Like your private jet that you're getting for us, Julia.
Yes, indeed.
Gordon Smith says, windmills. Thank you, Gordon. Windmills have sails.
Thank you. Yes.
Sails, for goodness sakes.
Yes.
Actually, is that Chris? Thank you, and Gordon for setting us straight on that. Okay, that's our news brief. Now, Clark, I took the horn away. I didn't turn the sound on. I took the horn away so that Clark would be happy with that graphic. When the code flag L goes down, it goes down with no horn. The race committee just takes it down when they're done leading the ducklings to the new area. Golf is another sport like sailing that has a declining participation. Andrew McUrban says sport has to be athletic or dangerous. Well, golf is kind of not very athletic. I agree with Mr. Doctor.
And Steve Atkins corrected me, and he's right. It's a nice walk ruined.
Okay, let's carry on here because we've got a great show. Lots more stuff that we put together for you today. Thanks, actually, in large part to Fosey today. Lots of Fosey contributions, as is the next segment, our regular segment from John Emmett. The Coaching Corners featuring our super coach, our Olympic coach in Fosey, John Emmett, sitting in the Qatar airport in Qatar, we think. And this report, his last one from Australia, is from the Royal Brighton Yacht Club, which is, it's in a suburb of Melbourne called Brighton, and it's a great club. I haven't been there in years, but everybody says it still is a great club. And it's down the shore, just a little bit from downtown Melbourne on, you know the name of that bay, Julia?
Mm-mm.
Port Phillip Bay.
Oh, yeah.
South of Melbourne. And here's John's beautiful report.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. So this is probably going to be the last recording from Australia. At the time of chatting, I'm about to start packing. Well, as always, it's something I probably should have done quite a few hours ago, but start packing, flying tomorrow. So my intention is to watch the show live from Doha Airport. I'm not sure how obvious it is from the background. I'm here at the Royal Brighton Yacht Club, which is where I've been doing some Ilka coaching. You can see people just getting de-rigged in the background. They did 3 little races this afternoon, and they will have a lot of video to take home, so I'll be posting that on the WhatsApp group. So they'll probably be quite fed up with my voice by the end of the weekend. But already I think lovely Lily's made her plans to come back here in the end of November, and Australia is a very good fit for the European summer. Nice thing here, same as Westport, we have the off the beach launching, so a lot of people can get out at the same time, and this is really quite a strong dinghy club. Been very welcoming. Everybody's been pushing really hard, and I hope they've learned an awful lot. I have good memories of being here around that 2020 Olympic campaign, so it's been fantastic to be back, and I think it's a take home for all clubs. So I'm just going to cross over the bike lane here, so if you wonder why I'm hesitating, I don't want to be one of those pedestrians who gets in the way of bikes, because I know what it's like from the perception of being a bike. So this is the same as we had in Adelaide. We just have to cross over to get to the water. But this welcoming part of clubs, I mean, the Commodore was here to meet us, asking what we were, what our plans were for the next Australian summer. But this making people welcome to the sport is so important. And as I said, that means all people. There's been some fantastic conversations in Australia. There's a real drive to try and get a parasailing demo event in 2032, although of course it starts a long time before that with other demo events, and just trying to promote the sport, make people understand how it works with the categorization, and just like any other part of grassroots sailing, to get lots and lots of bums on seats, people on the water, because the Olympics, it's actually the elite. It's very, very few people, if you think about it, who actually ever go to Olympic Games, whether that's team leaders, coaches, sailors. It's the same with parasailing. The number of people who actually will get to go to Paralympics is very small, but at the same time, they provide role models for everybody to look up to. And that's one of the things we've been doing, is trying to find those para role models. And there's some hugely impressive people out there, there's no other word for it, who are really inspiring to show that there really isn't barriers to get on the water. We're going to be looking at this sailing around the Isle of Wight. There's people who know a lot more details than me, but just to show what we really can do. And yes, everybody can sail, and that's just such an important message. I'm going to sign off here. It's time for me to go and, I was going to say, do my final debrief, have my final dinner, and have my final beer, but it's probably not going to be my final beer. But sail safe, have fun.
The golden hour. Look at how good that looks late in the afternoon. And what a great camera job.
Yes.
Lily's doing.
Yes.
Do you see how, I don't know if you all noticed this, but when John, those final few shots, and she had gone ahead of John a little bit, so the sun's on his face. I mean, she's a pro.
Yeah.
And then there's the Royal Brighton Yacht Club flagpole in the background. Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. John walked towards us. Superb vid. Yeah. John, you look like a tourist, Alan Long is saying. Now, did you know this is, and it's, as Alistair said, it's Sean Hogan's home club, and it's a brilliant yacht club. Royal Brighton Yacht Club is celebrating its 150th year. I did not know that. So bravo Zulu to them. That came across in doing just a little research last night on that club. And Alistair's club is the Sandringham Yacht Club. We've seen that on the show. And now to get another look at Royal Brighton is just much appreciated. John, thank you very much. Another great report by John. Ron, where did that come from?
I don't know.
John Emmett, sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. And he didn't mention in that report, but again, we are pushing hard to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. Everybody in Australia is working on that in the sailing community. Hopefully most everybody is. And the way to do that is to convince, I hope Brisbane survives. I know they got some problems getting ready for the games, but they will. They'll make it somehow, some way, both the Olympic Games and the Paralympics. And we hope we get sailing in as a demonstration event because it's the only way we're going to get sailing back into the Paralympic Games. And we think that's important, big picture, long term. Bourbon cream enunciation. Yeah, the only problem is I haven't had that much. I mean, it was barely a splash, Rick. So if that's affecting my pronunciation that little bit, I've got real problems, Julia.
Yes.
Maybe I do. Say yes.
Yes.
Say yes to the Paralympics. Yes, we sail. This is the guy on that Spanish boat that both Mr. Doctor and Magnus have interviewed and met. And this guy is going to sail around the island. He's blind. A Spanish sailor. He's going to sail blind around the Isle of Wight sometime this summer. Hopefully not during Cows Week. I agree with Andrew. That was not the right time to do that. Which gets us to our AAAA for today. A nice segue from John, who's been saying, he and Lily have been staying with Alistair on and off. And here is Alistair's report with my favorite music. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote for today. And there's some photos that precede the video.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the final beer? I have a feeling it was not.
I don't think so. Yeah. They've been obviously having much too good a time.
And that looks like as you would say in German, a Weißwein Scholle.
Yeah.
We'd call it a wine spritzer. It looks like soda water and some ice and some cubes there. With lovely Lily, with Alistair's wife. And obviously they're having a good last go as did Alistair and John in this video report.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey, and Lily, who's holding the camera, and John.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning. So here we are in Melbourne. Beautiful, beautiful day, and we're feeling very safe here with all of the news, particularly up around Brisbane with Cyclone Alfred, which is due to hit tomorrow morning. And our thoughts are with all of our friends in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast up around there. They're going to get belted. It's looking a bit nasty. But here we are in Melbourne, and we've come to the end of John's visit to Australia.
It's flown by. It really has. I'm still once again wishing I was fully packed and all the rest of it, but there we go.
But I do have Lily staying on longer because she and I are racing together over the next couple of weeks. So
maybe if I leave anything, she can bring it to China.
Yeah, so there's been so much we've done here over the last 5 weeks, John. I thought I'd interview you with a very unique style, and I haven't given you a chance to prepare. I'm just going to say one word, and you're going to come up with the very first word that enters your head when I say it.
All right, I might end up swearing.
And then we're going to move on. This is to give the Fosey a flavour for maybe what the last 5 or 6 weeks has been. So I'm just going to go one word, right? And you're going to get the first word that comes in the head, and then we move on.
My mind at the moment is still thinking cycling, sailing, and bulging discs. But there we go. Yeah,
that might be some of the words. Melbourne.
Sailing.
Weather.
Good.
Accommodation.
Fantastic.
Port Lincoln.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where Lily went sailing. Yeah. Bike.
So
bicycle.
Getting dropped. That's 2 words, but there we go. Dropped. Yeah.
Breakfast.
Calamari burger. That's 2 words.
That's fine. I knew you were going to say that. We'll come back to that. Meat tongue.
Not been yet. That's more than far away. No.
Sandy.
Western Port Beach is still in my van. Sand gets everywhere.
Sandringham.
Sandringham. Spend more time.
Western Port.
Oh, cooked. The first day I got absolutely cooked with a hot northerly.
Julia.
I was going to say Trump. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Yeah.
Fosey.
An awful lots. Yeah.
I took me off track there.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit about Australia, but I just wanted to get some really quick responses. But just to go back onto a few of those things, I think John's become famous in Melbourne, particularly at our local cafe, Casa Dolce. I introduced him to the calamari burger, which is the most delicious thing you've ever had, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm completely capable of cooking breakfast. So I've bought, I don't know, 90 or 100 energy gels to use for cycling. And I think I'm taking 70 or 80 back with me.
And John's become famous there at Casa Dolce for being the only customer they've ever had who has calamari burgers for breakfast every single day. Anyway,
well,
John,
twice a day, once after each ride.
Yeah. So that was a quick fire bit of an interview, talking about your time in Melbourne. John, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here in Australia with us, staying with us for the last 6 weeks. We had a lot of good times together. I've introduced you to my life. You've been immersed into my life.
And more names than I can remember, as I proved yesterday.
He's met so many of my mates, and he can't remember the names of any of them.
That's not quite fair, but yeah, it has been a struggle. And there's an awful lot of people who have the same position and the same name, which doesn't make it particularly easy. It's like all of these translators for Chinese sailing team wanted to be called Andy, which didn't make it easy.
Because so many Australians, of course, have nicknames. So anyway, it's been great having you and Lily here, and we look forward to another few weeks with Lily. So that's A for today, but it's really just to say farewell to John and to thank Tom and Julia and the Fosey for bringing us all together from around the world for lots of adventures and for talks about sailing and for having fun together. So John,
onwards and upwards. Sail fast, sail safe, have lots of fun.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah, I wanted to see Lily in that too. I agree with Blake and the others. Look at this. Oops. I got to back. There was right at the end. I blew that. Sorry, guys. I'll do it. I'll do it for the next. He had a nice shot of his outdoors. We've seen it before, but it was just a nice shot panning out of his beautiful house there in
Metung. But
no, that's not in Metung. That's in his city home. They're in Melbourne, not out in I don't think. I think that's the city home. Bravo, Chris Exley. Fosey strong. Rick Bannerow is sailing. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yes.
Alistair's on here too. I think that's at his home in Melbourne, not out in Metung. But correct me if I'm wrong. And we'll get another. Actually, I got one or two in the can from Alistair too that we just haven't had time to play. But good stuff. And the Fosey. This is what makes this whole show so much fun, Julia. Are all these people, cool, smart people from around the world. I say that every show. It's getting to be boring.
But it's true.
Well, it is true. You have to say it from now on.
Okay.
Or at least the next show. We'll alternate shows back and forth.
Yeah, but it makes the whole thing worthwhile.
Indeed. Yes, that is my Melbourne home in the suburb of Beaumaris. Beaumaris, probably to say. Great job, Alistair. Thank you. And great job, John. Many thanks. John should be halfway back to the UK now. He should be in Qatar in the Middle East. So I think that's where he said he was going to watch the show from today. Okay, now let's get to the main feature, the main story today. This is a relatively new podcast. This is this guy, Martin Devlin, who I don't know well, but I know him. And I don't remember if I've been on a show of his when he was doing other stuff, but I haven't been on his podcast. It is called, it's the Martin Devlin Show, but it's the DSPN, not ESPN, DSPN, meaning Devlin Sports Podcast Network. And he opined on could the America's Cup actually return to Auckland since there's been all this press. And I sat last night, Julia, and pinged, I went on and pinged several of the Super Fosey who were on and said, hey, what should the theme be? Should we do the JJ again? Should we preview Sail GP? We'll do that next week. Mm. But everybody's talking. Everybody loves the America's Cup, or at least they love to talk about it. And there aren't many people too fond of the current iteration of the America's Cup. But when Grant Dalton started talking earlier this week and Magnus started running a column about how much money Barcelona made, strange that Barcelona doesn't want it back if they made so much money. But nonetheless, Magnus doing his job. And then Martin Devlin got on the air today, Friday, in New Zealand to talk about could the America's Cup return to Auckland. And here is an excerpt from the beginning of his show. I think you'll find quite interesting.
Will the next America's Cup really be coming to Auckland? I don't think so. This story in the news again. Auckland Council have begun talks with Team New Zealand. Hope is alive, but the reality says we are simply no longer in the race. And that's because of one thing, and one thing only. The moolah, the money, the Jack Dash, the cash. We, New Zealand, cannot compete with the fat cat wallets being waved from overseas. Team New Zealand boss Grant Dalton says for it to be hosted here again, they'd need both central government backing and a private funding element. And that's where the government, as always, has a huge decision to make. The America's Cup costs a massive amount to host. It's both a cash-rich as well as a cash-costly event. Research out of Barcelona released yesterday indicated an economic benefit for that city for hosting the last Cup of over €1 billion, almost $2 billion in New Zealand money. I'm always a little suspicious, though, as to how these figures are calculated. The last couple of Cups here were also touted as having created telephone number type wealth for this country in terms of jobs, industry, tourism, infrastructure, and a whole heap of other intangibles. Now, some of all of that is true, but there's also an added truth which says those doing the research are always commissioned by those who pushed to host the event in the first place. Conflict of interest? Hell yes. No one with an economic agenda to prove about anything ever publishes a report or research that's counterproductive to the message that they're publicly peddling. That's just nuts. The conclusions are, and always will be, all that glitters is gold. Auckland, especially infrastructure-wise, has done very well from the America's Cup, but has it really benefited anyone or anything else outside the Queen City? For me, it's a bit like asking how the Sale GP in Littleton helped Hamilton's economy. In the end, it's going to come down to who is prepared to pay the most for it. Grant Dalton told me last night that 4 weeks from now, it'll be too late. Interest is already high offshore, meaning those with the biggest wallets have long been waving theirs at us, or rather, at Team New Zealand. We have another general election coming up the end of next year as well, as well. Does this cash-strapped government really want to risk the wrath of voters outside of Auckland by committing hundreds of millions of dollars to the America's Cup when there's so many more immediate and worthy projects crying out for cash? Name them. Roads, health, education, infrastructure in the provinces. The list is endless. Look, it would be great for it to happen, and one day maybe it will again, but not next time. Not the 38th edition plan for 2027. My pick is Saudi Arabia, and if it's not Saudi Arabia, it will happen eventually there, or back to somewhere else, super yacht, super model, super rich, super glitzy in Europe. I hate to say it, but the realistic chances of Auckland hosting the next America's Cup are about the same as Sir Jim Ratcliffe renewing his Ineos sponsorship of Ben Ainsley to race in it. We'll talk more about that. Glass half full.
Okay, so here's the report. You get some colleague on and they talk, and I'm not going to run that because it just goes on and on. But you got the gist of what Martin Devlin, who's a very sharp, switched on guy in the local sports world in New Zealand. Julie Ahrens is saying the economy in New Zealand sucks. They just don't have the money. Clark Chapin said he nailed it. Ed Worley says, unfortunately, I think the TNZ, Emirates Team New Zealand, is going through the motions for domestic political reasons, and it gives RNZ, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, cover. Mm-hmm. And there's some other comments from Blake and Fritz Mueller and so on. I don't need to leave that. I guess we'll take that down, Julie. Let's go to a two-shot of you and me. How's that? Rather than having that black and orange stuff from his show in the shot in the PIP, in the picture-in-picture PIP.
Okay.
What do you think, Julia? Is it going to be in Auckland?
Probably not. And I think it's really sad. I think New Zealand needs and benefits from all the good press, and certainly has from previous cups.
I sure hope it's there.
I do too.
But the teams, you know what? I'm talking to the teams. They don't want to go there.
They don't.
No, it's too far. It's too far for sponsor fulfillment. The market's small. There's 5 million people and 50 million sheep, or whatever the famous saying is.
Right.
So Mark Holland agrees with Martin Devlin 100%. Europe is the only reasonable choice. Julie Ahrens says Saudi Arabia is not going to happen. Remember, she talks to Grant Dalton.
Yeah.
Is not going to happen because the Americans won't go there. I suspect Julie is right. Mm-hmm. I suspect they won't, but you never know. You don't know. We shall see. Now, I'll go back here now. Sailing Anarchy today ran a snarky piece, but it's also, I think, quite accurate. I'm not going to read it all. Read the first paragraph. All of you that want to read the rest of it can go see it. But What an rubbery figures, as you can see, is the headline. What an amazing coincidence. On the same day, America's Cup event CEO Grant Dalton broke cover to hint at early negotiations with Auckland to host the next AC. The America's Cup media operation he controls pumped out a lengthy release claiming a huge financial benefit to Barcelona from AC 37. How convenient. And this article goes on, and I guess I want to highlight one paragraph. And again, I've been in this movie on and off for the last 40 years. And those of you who are in Newport, Rhode Island, most of you are too young to know this. But he says this only goes back to 1970 something when they were doing these reports. That is either, I think this Sailing Anarchy article said this. But the point is that even as far back as, at least from my firsthand knowledge, as far back as 1980, 77 or 80, the local kind of committee, which was the city of Newport and the New York Yacht Club they hired the University of Rhode Island over in Kingston to do an economic impact report, an EIR and EIS, a study. And they came back and said, oh, it's worth all this and all that. And of course, it was very glowing and favorable and so on, because everybody hoped the New York Yacht Club would win in 83 and keep it there.
Right.
And of course, when I ended up in San Diego helping them run the Cup, running the Cup as the general manager of the organizing committee, the first thing I had to do was to try to sign up sponsors and TV and go find economic impact reports from previously. There wasn't one yet from Perth, although it turned out to be a glowing one done by, guess who? The University of WA, Western Australia.
Course, yeah.
And, they're being paid to do the report, so they know what the people want to hear.
Right.
And this goes on in Big Pharma. It goes on in other areas of our beloved lives. So same thing has happened in Newport when that report came from Kingston. But of course, I glommed onto it. To, look at this, what the great economic impact. And that happens time after time after time.
And the other thing is, though, it's hard to measure. For instance, before New Zealand won the America's Cup, they were about 84th on the list of popular places.
Yep.
And they became kings of the world for 8 years.
Well, in part, and it did get super yachts there. And it's the same for WA. No one had ever heard of Fremantle.
No.
At least outside of maybe WA, outside of Australia anyway.
Right.
And it turned into a big tourist town, and the kids still go there on Friday and Saturday nights down to Frio. It's a nice town.
Right.
But here's the point. I think it's been made up here, Ed Worley and others. If Barcelona made so much dollars, why are they not hosting again? And that's the point that we're all thinking. And that's really the point of the Sailing Anarchy article. I just want to read this middle paragraph here. Nor was the calculation done by a government or even a city agency. This is the Barcelona EIR, Economic Impact Reporter study. We are told the figures were derived from an exhaustive post-event economic impact study, quote unquote, conducted by the University of Barcelona and something called the Barcelona Capital Nautica Foundation. The BCNF happens to be a commercial interest group founded to promote marine-based ventures in the Catalonia region. You could hardly call those independent sources. So, it goes on. I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but it is an interesting article and one of the more responsible things that Sailing Anarchy has posted in some time. And I don't know who this anarchist David is, but he writes good stuff from time to time, and I commend it to you. Ed Worley has been in this movie as well, and he says, when I was with the Eagle Challenge leading up to 87, we had a study claiming the winning cup would bring $1 billion to Southern California. Sound familiar? Blah, 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 political spin. Yeah. And there's a bunch of other comments here, including Bing Bong, who's saying William Sangmeister, Spain hates tourists. Even if they made money, I would predict all elected officials in Barcelona would be out of jobs. Well, you don't know that. I hope the Cup goes to Auckland. I think the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron have been wimps for not insisting that it be there. I think Mr. Dalton is very clever, very smart. He's got people helping him like Magnus the Magnificent and others. And I think everybody would come back together and support the event if they can get it there, and they'd find the money to do it, because Mr. Dalton is the best. He's even probably better than Dennis was in his heyday at raising money. He's been exceptionally good, exceptionally frugal. And that's what wins the Cup. You can talk about technology and skippers and tactics, and it's the people who raise the money and then put the team together and recruit the smart people in all position. It's not the wealthiest team. It's the smartest team that wins the Cup. So I just think they can do it and do it in New Zealand. And I think they can still win. And Julie Ahrens is agreeing with William Sangmeister. The people of Barcelona hate the tourists. They were protesting tourism during the entire time we were all there. Well, they've been protesting tourism for years because they don't have any water, for starters, in Barcelona, and that's a problem. But I commend this article in Sailing Anarchy to you, and I ask you the question, as much as we would all like, as I reach for the volume now, because that video we just played had very little level to it relatively. I ask you, the Fozy, in the poll, yes or no, will the next Cup be in Auckland? What do you think? And is what's going on now anything more than a stalking horse? Because as you can tell from my cover photo for today, that's basically what I think is going on. Whether it's a Trojan horse or a stalking horse remains to be seen, Julia, but basically Grant Dalton is trying to get interest up, get competing bids, because he's a very smart business guy in Bravo Zulu Tum. So, yes or no, will the next Cup be in Auckland? What do you think? That's our Fozy poll for the day. Julie Ahrens says, not a chance. We'll watch the comments come rolling in here with a little background music. No, not likely. Mark Holland agrees. Likely Italy. So Mark's hearing the same thing I'm hearing. And I broke that news the other day, and a lot of you poo-pooed it, but Claire Harrington's on. I thought she had a big dinner to go to tonight. Nope.
She's probably there listening.
Well, she probably knows more. Nope, not Auckland. GD is trying to fund his whatever all through venue fees. Yeah, of course. A couple not be in Auckland. Nope. It should be, Alistair says, but won't be. Yeah, it's going to be either in the Middle East or Europe. And I think Italy is at the top of the list. But the Middle East has the Bucks. Is anyone going to... Clark Chapin, poor guy's trying to write all this down for us. Claire says they're on a break. Well, so does it.
Yeah, see?
It's only 5:30 there, Claire. It's not even cocktail hour yet. Of course, at the New York Yacht Club cocktail hour on a Friday afternoon, it might start earlier. I'd loved it to be in Auckland, Julie Ahrens says. Yep. Theo Smith says nope. Clark Chapin asks, is there anybody, if you think it's going to be, say now, otherwise we assume you all think no. Anybody? I hope it is. I'm sure a lot of you agree.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of you agree. Julie, you agree.
Absolutely.
You said at the top of this thing. Okay. Mary Jude Szymanski. Hi, Mary Jude. Thanks for your comments after the last couple of shows. It should be Italy is a good second. Well, this is John Vincent. Is the lack of a named venue for 38th the reason we still haven't seen the protocol? Well, that's part of the reason, because you don't. This is the. I'm going to turn the music down. I'm assuming you're all down. We'll go to the last leg here in a sec. I'm assuming it's a chicken and egg thing. Do you name the year before you name the venue? You can't, because the venue might say, yeah, we'll pay you $200 million or $100 million or $70 million, whatever the number is, but we can only do it in this year because of other stuff.
Right.
Or do you name the year and then the venue, or do you name the venue and then the year? And it's hard to do the protocol because until you know the date is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah. Until
you know the date, trying to make up the other rules about when you can splash boats, when you can sail your old boats and pre-regattas and all. You don't know. If it's 2028, you can have more pre-regattas than if it's 2027 is 2 years from now. We're already in the first quarter, almost through the first quarter of 2025. And we're going to do an America's Cup event with new boats, maybe new teams, even existing teams trying to get back up to speed. It's a huge ask. Julie Ahrens says, not in the Middle East. I would love to go to Italy. She probably is hearing the same things about Italy, as are we.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've beaten that horse to death, haven't we?
Probably.
Okay, that gets us then to the last leg. And apropos what we're doing in the last leg, where I think is one of the top contenders for the next Cup, is Sardinia, and it could be down in Cagliari, which is down the southeast corner, the training base for Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli, down the southeast corner of that beautiful island. And they, that's one of the places in the world they call the so-called blue zones. Is that what they call it, where people live a long time? They better designate the Beach Street Yacht Club. You're going strong at soon to be 86. What, next week? 86. This is a blue zone.
Yes, indeed.
Here in San Francisco.
Designated. Yeah.
But Sardinia is one of those blue zones. They walk, they get a lot of exercise, they eat not many carbs, they have one glass of wine with dinner, and on and on and on. They eat for lots of fruits and vegetables and so on. But they walk and they have a sense of community, and they're all,
It's great weather.
Oh, and it's nice weather. Well, it can be chilly in the wintertime. I've been there in the winter once, but it's just fabulous. I love Sardinia. All three corners of Sardinia are nice and nice. We've had world championships, regattas, meetings in all three corners of Sardinia. So if it's up, down rather in Cagliari in the southeast corner, that lovely fishing town where Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli has been training, has their base. Great. Nice conditions down there, as you've seen on their videos. The northwest corner, I'm trying to remember the name of the town up there where we ran a World Women's Championship or a laser something. Banner was saying the blue zone has to do with bourbon cream consumption.
Right up there.
But I think that the best place possible to do it would be the northeast corner, which is called Costa Smeralda, which means Emerald Coast in Italian. And this is the area that was bought many years ago, 50, 60, 70 years ago by the Aga Khan, a long time ago, and then developed. And there's a Hotel Cala di Volpi, which is one of the nicest hotels anywhere in the world. There's an airport in what's called Olbia, which is this little fishing industrial town you can fly into from, I think in the summertime from Munich, but also from Milano and from Roma across. And it's just, the whole area is lovely. It's nice. It's
sail-oriented.
And you know how we always say that sailing is better off on an island? Get to Bermuda, get to Newport, Rhode Island is on an island, get to Australia, which is a big island, get to New Zealand, get to Cowes. You can talk about these fabulous islands that are, the Caribbean, all the sailing that goes on in the Caribbean. And it's a different feeling when you get there, and concentrate on the sport, concentrate on sailing. And I think the northeast corner of Sardinia, which is Costa Smeralda, which is where the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda is, and where the Aga Khan and his people developed that whole area, is a fabulous possibility. I mean, Andrew McUrban knows it as well or better than any of us.
And he says
it's fabulous. I mean, you can't beat it. The conditions, the food. Yeah, it's a little expensive. It's a little high end, but it's not as expensive as San Francisco or New York. It's right up there. Not as expensive as Monaco. In the summertime, in late August, early September, it can be a little pricey because the hoity-toities are there and the super yachts are there, and it's a destination.
Yeah.
New York Yacht Club, Royal Thames Yacht Club, doing a cruise in company starting in Porto Cervo this September. Porto Cervo is a little town where Yacht Club Costa Smeralda is actually located. Yeah. Sicilia, yeah, possibly. Stingray is saying, could be Sicily. Remember, we had the IACC pre-regatta in what year, Stingray? Did you go to that regatta, Stingray? Was that in 06, 05, or 06? I think it was the last regatta, pre-regatta, leading up to the 07 Cup in Valencia. So that would have been, maybe there was a regatta in Valencia after that. But in Stintino, which is in Sicily, that was a fabulous spot for a regatta, in a little tiny town, but they handled it well, and they could probably handle the Cup in Sicily as well. So in honor of all, it was 06, Stingray is saying. Okay, in honor of all that, our last leg video today is in honor of His Highness, the late, great Aga Khan, who just passed away and developed Yacht Club Costa Smeralda and that emerald coast of Sardinia. Here it is.
Qual è stato l'attimo o il momento in cui è scattato nella sua mente la scintilla che ha dato vita alla Costa Smeralda?
Dovrà essere al mese di luglio nel 1961, quando sono venuto a Porto Cervo con 4 o 5 amici in una barca di 12 metri. Non c'era niente. Era la prima volta che ho visto la Costa Smeralda o piuttosto questa zona di Sardegna durante l'estate. Avevo comprato un piccolo terreno senza vederla e volevo vedere un po' il terreno che avevo comprato.
Noi abbiamo fatto qualche 6 mesi di ricerca sull'istoria di Sardegna per vedere quali sono le caratteristiche di struttura e di architettura di Sardegna. Vogliamo fare un sviluppo che prende tutte le belle cose della storia di Sardegna e le mettiamo sulla Costa Smeralda.
È un onore e una grande soddisfazione di aver potuto firmare la prima sfida italiana per la Coppa America. La prima partecipazione italiana alla regata velistica, la più difficile del mondo, rappresenta un sforzo tecnico, sportivo, finanziario, organizzativo eccezionale.
La mattina del 31 maggio 1992, al molo della nuova marina di Porto Cervo c'è una gran folla. Autorità, ma soprattutto tanti curiosi per un saluto agli uomini del destriero pronti per la partenza.
Destriero è una nave classificata capace di navigare in qualsiasi oceano e dunque ha la possibilità di essere, la tecnologia di essere utilizzata in campo commerciale, militare, quello che è giustificato. Un investimento che hanno fatto i partners, direi con il leadership degli Yacht Club Costa Smeralda per questa sfida.
Il mio auspicio è che l'esempio degli Yacht Club Costa Smeralda possa essere fonte di ispirazione per molte altre realtà.
Yeah, nice tribute to.
He was quite a
His
handsome
Highness.
man. I don't remember him being quite that handsome, but yeah.
Well, I didn't know him well. I met him several times, and as Andrew says, you know, you go out there for the Maxi Worlds, and I was on the jury or chair of the jury, I can't remember, and you go out there we had the 12-meter Worlds there one year. We had other events with the Windsurfer Worlds just around the corner, at what's called Baia Sardinia, and other events. We had a laser something there one time, and it's just a marvelous place. And it's the August, September is nice. There's a good sea breeze, and as Andrew will tell you, Mr. Doctor, he's there with the Maxis every year, and it's magnificent sailing. I'm sorry that's not in. There wasn't any closed caption but you can go back and if you want to really see it, watch it in replay, because we now have turned, thanks to a couple of you who pinged me, we've turned the closed captions on in YouTube. And I don't know if it shows up in Facebook now or in YouTube in replay or live. I just haven't gone and looked at it myself, but you can watch it, I'm sure, in replay on YouTube now and see English or any other language. It's astonishing how good YouTube has become at doing instant You know, they watch YouTube, the algorithm, the computer listens a few seconds ahead and already does the translations in the bottom before the person says it. It's astonishingly good. And Banero is saying, thanks, Rick, the translation did show on Facebook. Maybe it's not live on YouTube, but I know it is live on YouTube in replay if you go look at it in replay, and we'll see if we can get it sorted out so it's real time. But I thought that was an important video to see. He was a marvelous man. He's got some family that, you know, he'd show up at these regattas.
Yeah.
He was there.
Oh,
and he had a big, villa, and still does, or did. His family does. Fritz Mueller says it's on now in Facebook. Translation, however, is dubious. Do you speak Italian? Next time, what we'll do, we'll get an Italian speaker on here, Julia, and have them live voice it for us. Or I could go back, take the video, play it, record it with the closed captions myself.
I bet somebody's done one.
But it's a pain. It's a lot of work. It's everything I can do to get us live on the air at the appointed hour. So the closed captions were in Italian. Banro is saying, okay, you got to click a button to get it into another language. But we'll work on that. And if not, we'll get somebody. I could get Meg, who speaks Italian, daughter Meg, because she went to uni in the southern part of Switzerland, which is called Ticino, which is the Italian,
that's right, yeah.
It's the Italian part of Switzerland.
Yeah, you can almost understand everything he says anyway.
Almost.
With
the pictures. You get the gist of the construction that went on Lothies now many years ago. So we'll see if it's there. We'll see if it's someplace else. But I'm sure Mr. Dalton is hard at work at finding a good venue for AC 38 somewhere in Europe or the Middle East. Despite Julie's protestations to the contrary, it's not going to be in the Middle East. Don't count it out, Julie Ahrens, our beloved Fozy in Cleveland. Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, I would guess YCCS Media will have done an English version. I will ask. Thank you. And if I'll at least put it on my Facebook page, if not, run it on the show again, Andrew. Thank you for that. That gets us into the D block. Julie, and your favorite person for Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And apparently AI is saying that Valencia would be the most ideal location for AC-38. Clark Jacobs saying, no, he's looking for a venue that pays the most money. Yeah, maybe not the most money, Clark. I think he's looking for a great venue. And I think Andrew says that YCCS is not interested in AC-38. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see.
That solves that.
We got the Vikings on the mind today, Julia. Seriously? Oh, come on now. I mean, everywhere you go, you think the Europeans were showing up here in North America, and the Vikings were there first before
hundreds of years ago.
The Spanish and the others were. And maybe the Chinese on the West Coast, too. Who knows? USA boycotted Russian Olympics. Would they do the same for the AC? Which, I don't know. Which venue has the nicest pizza, Alex? We're still on the venue. That was sent by Gordon Smith. Clever. Thank you, Gordon. Our super Fozy in Denmark, who's, of course, by way of Britain originally. Now, this is a good one, too. This asks the question, why is one side of the boat port and the other starboard, not left and right? Julie, do you know the answer?
It's sailor language.
Yes, but how did that become the sailing language? Once again, it has to do with the Vikings. In old Viking ships, the steering oar or steerboard was on the right side. Since sailors docked on the opposite side of the steerboard to avoid damaging the rudder, the left side became known as port. Towards the port, towards the pier, towards the dock.
Yeah.
Steerboard and port.
Oh, that's good to know.
How's that?
I'm impressed.
Starboard was the side of the yacht with the steering board. So a lot of folks, including Ed and Fritz Mueller and perhaps others, knew that. No, it's not the red port wine. That's a different issue, Stingray. And Andrew is saying it used to be the larboard and startboard, which was confusing. Yeah, the Germans, of course, had that. And the Germans had it the other way around, too, for a while. That was strange. Okay, that was sent in. The cleanest one he's ever sent in, Julia. Ted Ryman.
Well, he has great intellectual curiosity, so that's perfectly
Blake
okay.
Middleton said he didn't know that before. Yeah, I think we've heard it. We may even run that on the show, but it's always interesting. It's a good one. Now, Julia.
Yes.
Apropos this being a drinking show with a sailing habit, and apropos locking the clock, we lost an hour last night, but look on the bright side. This will be our Sunday. We're that much closer to happy hour.
You bet.
You spring forward, leap forward.
Fall back.
And fall back when you're not locking the clock. Thank you, Rick Bannerow, for sending that one in. Now, I did not have time, and I will. I've got one from Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin that's got a toilet brush, which I will use on Tuesday's show. I promise you, Andrew, I'll put that in. That having to do with President Trump, but this one has to do with Elon's Musk. This is, I don't know who took the picture, but it looks like it was in the Piccadilly line and the London Tube. One of you Brits will know which line this is, the tube. And Elon's Musk, perfumed in 1939 for wankers. Come on, Julia. It's funny. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, you got to make fun left, right, and center on
Absolutely.
this show, right? And that was sent by Mr. Doctor.
Oh, that's good.
And as I said, he's got another one that we will use on Tuesday's show that you probably won't approve of, but
probably not.
It's funny. Finally, because this is, after all, a sailing show and not a political show, but we like to, sailing is political. Life is political. And we try.
You're either left or right, port or starboard.
Port or starboard. But you'll see him again after the sailing season. And several of you sent that. That must have shown up on one of these sailing meme boards or something. But Blake Middleton liked that post on Elon. Okay, we're to the finish line, Julia. To 1 hour, 54 minutes. Just 6 minutes short of 2 hours. So that's pretty good. You like to say...
Yes. Always have the opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Indeed. And welcome to all of you who've joined us in replay. And your comments are also welcome. We appreciate you very much watching in replay if you couldn't do it live. But do it live. It's more fun because then you can add to the chat. And we like to see your comments and views.
Yes. And it's fun. It reminds us it's fun to read all those chats. Just take the time to go back and look at them.
Yeah, another great show. Alistair Murray is saying, well, that's because of your contribution, Alistair, and John's contribution, and all the other folks. We appreciate it very much. And we appreciate your support via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And we appreciate the booze and the shirts and all the other stuff that you send us. LF&S, like, follow, and share. Rick Bannerow is saying, great job as usual. Thanks for your support. Thanks also to the people that gave us audio, video, and images for today's show, and reminder that next week we got 2 Super Fozy coming on. Mark Reed will be promoting what's going on in Chicago in their 150th year at that superb and esteemed yacht club in their Heart of America Challenge from 1987. He will be our live guest. And then next Friday, Staff Commodore Kimball Livingston here, past Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club, will be talking about the rise of private youth sailing teams, at least here in the U.S. and perhaps beyond. And that's next Friday, the 14th. Turn off politics and go sailing with friends, Ed Worley is saying. In the meantime, just a reminder again that we go on daylight time. We go spring forward on Sunday. So you in the rest of the world, starting next week for some period of time, most of you will be live an hour earlier. We will be live an hour earlier until March 30th when Europe goes on summertime, and April 6th, which is when most of Australia, or some of Australia anyway, and most, if not all of New Zealand, go off daylight savings time or summertime. And then we're on different times again. That's all. That was the most succinct way I could try to put that to you all. But you all know it. Regardless, we stay at 1300 San Francisco time because I need every hour in the morning to put the show together. Fun show, Alan Long. To the slopes. Go skiing. Thank you. Don't forget your clock adjustment right to your DeYoung. Thanks to all of you. And thanks to you, Julie. We appreciate very much everything you do for us. We hope to see you on Tuesday. Same time, same channels. We'll have a JJ report. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.